Greetings, subscribers and fellow YouTubians alike. Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl D Green 2.0. Hope you all are having a good Monday. Happy Monday to you all. I am happy that it is Monday. I had a pretty good weekend. I'm chilling. But before we get into my weekend, let me just remind you of the housekeeping. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, so that if you are interested in my content going forward, you can be notified when I upload a video. And then again, I'm going to speak it into existence. Hype me up if you can. Hype me up, okay? Numbers are growing. Algorithms working its magic. But, just get involved. Get engaged. It helps me out. So, this weekend, Friday. So, for those that haven't listened to my videos before and really don't know my backstory, I moved recently from Cobb County. I'm here in Atlanta, but I moved from Cobb County to Midtown, and I intentionally selected this neighborhood that I'm in because it's within walking distance of Fox Theater. Now, if you know me personally, you know that I appreciate the arts. I have artwork in my home. I have tattoos. I love paintings. I love going to concerts. I love going to Broadway plays. Typically what I do is I go on a trip to New York once a year, but this year with all the movement that was going on, I didn't have the opportunity to go. And so I made my own little New York here. And so whenever Broadway tours a play here in Atlanta, I just walk right over there and go. So this weekend they had Six, which is the play about Henry VIII's 6 wives, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, and then Catherine Howard and Catherine Parr. So yeah, Catherine Howard was the 5th one, and Catherine Parr was the surviving wife. And it was a pretty good play. It's a modern girl power type of pop spin on the women sharing their stories in relation to their dynamic with Henry VIII and them being married to him. I mean, if you know that dude was a tyrant. So it couldn't have been easy being married to him. I mean, he wasn't none nice. But I like that with this play, they kind of empower the women to, speak on their legacy. I mean, the actors, not the women themselves, but their stories are told from a perspective to where you can understand and appreciate each woman and what they did for Henry VIII, because they all offer something different. With the exception of maybe Anne of Cleves. She ended up, Anne Boleyn changed the course of history because she birthed Elizabeth I, who was the reigning monarch for, the UK for, what did she reign? Like 67 years. And then Catherine Parr, who was the last wife, she contributed to the succession being changed. So his children were able to gain. That's how Elizabeth came into power, because there was some drama with, Queen Mary, who was the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and then Jane Seymour birthed his first son. So, King Edward became the prince. I mean, he became the king, the prince that became the king. But then when he died, there was an issue of succession. So the 6th wife, she came into the place of allowing them to reconsider how succession happened, given that Henry didn't have a lot of legitimate heirs. So anyway, each wife offered something. So I was going to say Anne Boleyn didn't, but she actually did. I would say probably Anne of Cleves and, wives 4 and 5 didn't really get much. They just got their own story. But anyway, just go see it if you ever have a chance to see it. It's a really good play. The music's bomb. The costumes are bomb. I like to think of them as, a Spice Girl version of the wives. So it's the best way I could put it. And then my daughter, she went and hung out with her brother. So they had a sleepover. I had an adult weekend. I just chilled in my home, ate, worked out, watched Game of Thrones, and I'm chilling, y'all. I'm chilling. I don't go back to work until May 26th, so I'm enjoying it while I can, okay? My peace while I can. Speaking of peace, there wasn't much in this episode, so let's just go ahead and get into it, okay? Let me stop rambling. If y'all hear a little barking in the background, that's my puppy. She's sleeping on the sofa and she's dreaming right now, so can y'all hear her? I wonder what she's dreaming about. All right, anyway, so season 17, episode 5. Episode is called Dynasty Divas in Atlanta. I think it should have been Dynasty Divas of Atlanta, given they were not in Atlanta when all of this should happen, majority of the episode. But it starts out with Adrienne Maloof and Phaedra and Cynthia sitting at the table discussing the business venture that Adrienne and Cynthia are involved in with the tequila. I think that's a smart idea, Cynthia, because you going into your sunset years, if you're going to park your money in some investments and, you know, produce some mailbox money, investing with the Maloof and investing in tequila is a smart way to go. So I commend you, Cynthia. I commend you. I love that. One thing I can say about Cynthia is she always seems to pursue like smart business ventures. Like she has pretty good business acumen, especially given the way she came into the franchise. Remember when she had all those financial issues? That ain't the situation now. So kudos to you, girl. So then they're talking about, you know, the lead up and what to possibly expect when all of the women go. And then somehow they get on Phaedra and Pinky's drama and if that's been settled. And then Phaedra comically says, I'm not worried about if she eats meat or not. And I think her priorities are out of whack because while she's over here worried about who's gossiping on what she eats, she needs to be worried about what they're talking about her in the national news regarding her not paying her rent and her financial issues with her business. I mean, it is what it is. That's the situation, Pinky. Love you, but, you know, you kind of have to be ready for them to come at you regarding that. Like, I know you arm yourself and protect yourself by being open about it, but at the same time, when you got defensive with Angela at the end, I was kind of like, well, what did you expect? You're on a Housewives show when it revolves around conflict resolution. So you don't think when you're in conflict with someone, especially given that the goal is to also produce entertainment for us, you don't think they're going to throw it in your face? That's just me. That's just me. So I like Pinky. You know, my allegiance to her and affinity towards her did not really change in this episode. The only thing I would say is, girl, if you're going to have masculine energy, don't get so emotional. Okay? Don't get so emotional. You know, this is a game at the end of the day. This is a game. So anyway, so they go to the next scene when all of the women are meeting up for the trip, and they are advised by Cynthia, I believe, sent the text for them to dress in their Dynasty in Dallas theme. Dynasty in Dallas being the soaps from the 80s based in Texas, I believe. I didn't watch them, but I know who the characters were. And so I understood what theme she was looking for, you know, big hair, sexy, classy, makeup, all that. And the only women that seemed to get the assignment, and Phaedra made this comment in her confessional, was Portia and Phaedra, because they were the only ones that dressed up in a Texas type theme. Portia's is up for debate because Portia just had on a tight dress with her booty sticking out, but she looked good. She did. So I wouldn't say hers was, you know, Dallas theme, but, you know, at least she attempted, because when you looked at the other women, Kelly wasn't in theme. Maybe Pinky was in theme because Pinky had on a suit. Shamia definitely wasn't in theme with that crop top and skirt. Angela, no, with the button-up shirt and the skirt, love you, but no. So yeah, at least they tried. We'll give them that. So let's see. Okay, so in the confessional, Pinky and K. Michelle says it's their first girl trip. They don't go on girls trips. K. Michelle had already mentioned it in a previous episode, but in this episode, Pinky says that she mostly hangs with men and she has masculine energy, so that's why she's never really been on a girls trip. I used to say the same thing in my 20s. However, I don't really hang out with a lot of women, not necessarily because of me having interchangeable energy, because I also have masculine energy, but I also have feminine energy. I can't hang out with men because men just don't think like me, you know? And if I'm hanging out with boys, like when I was in my 20s, I thought like the men. I was, however you want to classify it, man. I wasn't in touch with my femininity. I wasn't in touch with my mature grown woman outlook. So that's why I was hanging out with boys and men back in the day. But in my 40s, hell no. Hell no, I'm not hanging out with men. No, they don't. So when Pinky's saying that, I was like, oh, okay, girl. I mean, the only men I would probably be comfortable hanging out with are gay men, because gay men, they ride for black women. They advocate for us. You know, I just feel more comfortable. I feel like I could just be myself. I can dance with them. I love going to the gay bars with gay men, but just hanging out with men in general, no. Women have evolved way too much nowadays, and A lot of the men haven't caught up, and that would just personally irritate me if we're getting into certain conversations. No, you. So anyway, that's a separate story. But yeah, so when she said that, I was like, okay, noted, because that helped me understand her approach throughout the trip up until the argument, because Pinky was being aggressive. She was being direct. She was trying to figure out, solutions to the problems. She was trying to get to the bottom of she's being very masculine. But when Angela threw you off, then you start being childish. I won't even say you were being feminine, because it's never cool to get aggressive in conversation and call another woman a bitch, especially another Black woman. We don't deal well with aggression. And when you call another woman a bitch from your gut, like, what are you trying to do? You trying to fight? So I didn't agree with Pinky when she said that. It's kind of like you open up the floodgates when you did that. So anyway, let me continue on here. So let me see. Pinky goes into this long prayer to kick out, the trip for bonding or whatever. Drew's corny commentary in the confessional, and then Kay cheers with her signature statement, safe sex and paychecks. She used to say that on Love and Hip Hop. Then you get Pinky and Angela speaking respectively about their financial situations and trying to sell their portfolios. Angela says how she pretty much dissolved her own portfolio. She lost that $2 million. And then Pinky, she's explaining her situation. Side note, when they were talking about that, I was looking at the charcuterie boards and Kelly's, and those were some nice charcuterie boards. I love me a charcuterie board. And then Shamia's listening. She says that she's scared because right now she doesn't have that much of a worry with her business. But, given that she's about to take a chance, she's getting a little concerned hearing what the women have gone through financially. I get it, but it's like I said, when you make life happen for you, sometimes you do run the risk. So don't be scared, Shamia. At least you have a nice little cushion, maybe in Gerald, to fall back on. Because I've heard some things about Gerald's business in the, Anyway, so don't worry, Shamia. Just walk on faith. Don't let someone's situation deter you, but just take notes. So if you're getting advice from your husband, who seems to be an accomplished business person, like you say, that's the only thing. Because if you're listening to both of them, the theme is that they didn't listen to wise counsel. So if you could take anything from that conversation, don't take the fear aspect. Take the failures that they encountered, and then just learn from that. All right, so they both talk about how they took financial hits in 2024. 2024 was a horrible year for them, and then Pinky says she thinks it was a horrible year for a lot of people. Yeah, 2024 wasn't a good year for me. It was good for me in me getting promoted at my old job, just getting a stronger sense of my financial independence, and I felt really boss personally as a woman. But other stuff I dealt with outside of that, I was still on the heels of bouncing back from losing my husband. I was in a relationship with someone and just realizing that we weren't aligned because a lot of shit was coming up. Quite frankly, some of the things that was mentioned in this episode, it reminded me exactly, this is exactly why me and this motherfucker did not work out. Because particularly when they start talking about the all men cheat and the social media sneakiness of it, that is it. He didn't physically cheat, but he micro cheated in social media, and he thought I was an idiot and didn't catch on to that. So when they were talking about that, K. Michelle in particular, I was like, yeah, she's right. People nowadays are reckless, especially these men. They're sneaky and they don't think that we're on to it. That's why I don't do Snapchat anymore. I figured out what Snapchat is for. I call it sneaky link chat, because my ex always on Snapchat. But I figured out what he would do, and what a lot of men do, and a lot of people do. What they do on Snapchat is, because the stories only last for 24 hours, no one would know unless there are messages within the personal message, the DM part, the instant message, if you were communicating with someone or if you got attention from someone, unless it's saved. So I actually had Snapchat for a little bit. And then he and I kind of reconnected through Snapchat. But what that told me, I looked at God revealing to me why my intuition was so strong when we were together. Because they always be denying shit. They want you to be so dumb. But I would always tell him, Like, I'm look, intuition. God is talking to me in this relationship, bro. Like, you're doing shit. Yeah, you're not physically cheating, because for him, that's the standard. If I'm not fucking no other bitch, that's not cheating. For me, no. If it starts with a thought and you're out here fishing for attention, that's micro cheating to me. And social media nowadays, like K. Michelle said, a lot of men cheat and they sneakily do it in social media. They in their minds, they're not advanced enough to understand that's the intro. That is the start of cheating. So I don't know, like I said, that's why, if you don't know, I date them both. I'm bisexual. I'm not just limited to men, because the men nowadays, they're not on that level. But anyway, whew, telling y'all my business. Sorry. Okay, so now, K. Michelle, excuse me, ma'am. What do you mean you don't have a prenup with him because he doesn't have social media? He's a dentist that seems to be focused on his practice, and he is humble when you give him things to not accept them. Like, he doesn't seem materialistic. Girl, the person you married is not going to be the same person you divorced. So I hear you. You can trust his character, given, the history you guys have and what he has shown you. But as a businesswoman, not a wife, you need to protect your assets. So even me, if I were to get remarried, oh, you best believe I'm fucking setting up a prenup. Absolutely. And I don't even have that much shit. I got 2 houses and I have accounts. And I got a vehicle that's paid off, and I have, policies or whatever, brokerages accounts. I'm going to protect all that. So K. Michelle's got 10 times as much as me. I wouldn't even play around with my money like that. So when she said that, I said, oh, no, Kay. Talk to Bethany Frankel. Talk to Bethany Frankel. She'll get you together real quick on that no prenup thing. As a successful woman, oh, no, absolutely not. I was shocked. So, yeah, the cheating, yeah, I already talked about that. The social media and all men cheating. Yeah, I'm totally agreeing with that. Nowadays, unless you are a really disciplined person and loyal to your core, that's the only way you're gonna show up decent in a relationship. And you have to be strong, because with the temptation that comes in the form of social media, because I don't agree in not having a social media. I think, let that nigga have one, but then see how he acts. The thing is, though, that character has to be solid, and that discipline and that loyalty has to be there. And you also have to be able to have those conversations about it. Because another reason, I'll go on to the next thing. Another reason me and my ex didn't work out is because I would try to talk to him about this stuff, level with him. You know what I mean? Like, nigga, I see what you're doing. I even caught him one time DMing a girl on Facebook. And so he would try to gaslight me to see a reality that didn't exist. Like, oh, you don't trust me because of social media? Nigga, stop. 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 So, if you guys can have those honest conversations and people don't gaslight you about it, let's just be real and talk about it, because unfortunately, those are the times that we live in. Don't be trying to gaslight people and, make them think that they're not seeing something. Just stop. Stop. Anyway, next scene. Well, next part of the scene, because it's the same scene. So then they talk about Black and Drew's date, and then they bring up Black being in K. Michelle's DM, and I don't see it for Black. If you saw my previous recap, you understand why. They go to the rest area, because Kay says she has to pee. Shamia, very tacky, speaks about squatting over a cup so that she doesn't have to touch anything. Shamia, let me just share something with you really quick. That is a nice remedy for that. Okay. So, I keep this on me. Okay. I also have seat covers that I ordered from Amazon. I also have gloves, and then they have portable Lysol wipes to take with you. Why are we still peeing in a cup in 2026? At the time y'all film this in 2025. I think that is so tacky. I hate when I go in a women's bathroom and you see pee on the seat. Because in my mind, I'm thinking why don't you just carry the kit? Like, get you a little bag, keep your Lysol, your toiletry essentials in there. Why ruin it for everybody because you want to protect yourself? Because when you peeing on the seat, what do you think you're doing? You're contributing to the situation. So, Shamia, girl, the way you act, I don't know if I see it for you as much as I did in the beginning, because I'm really starting to see why you irritate a lot of people. Because I didn't watch last season, but I was just watching her, and I'm like, this girl is tacky as hell. Not grateful. We'll get into that. And she don't confront shit head on. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so Pinky's commentary in the confessional, I agree. Why are we peeing in cups, Shamia? You got Versace or Gucci or something she said on your ceiling. Yeah, like we too grown and accomplished and hopefully smart enough to understand that we don't have to pee in cups. Anyway. So it's a long journey to get there. The women are complaining in the Sprinter because they've landed now and, they're trying to get to their place. Nice property. Nice property. They did an aerial view of the property, very large enough to have, I think they said the main house was like, did it say 5,000 or 10,000 feet? Somewhere between square feet. Somewhere in between that. And then they had the tiny house, which was 1,200 square feet. And then they had the pool house, which was a little bit over 2,000 square feet. So even the additional houses are the size of some single family homes. Keep that in mind, okay? Very nice property. So when they're touring, Cynthia shows them the main house. She shows them the 2 additional houses. When they're at the tiny house, she shows that they like it. And then the pool house, Kay says no. And then Drew's like, I know I'm not staying here. I'll talk a little bit more about the way the ladies responded to the rooms, but let me finish this. So then Cynthia says that she's in a great place with everyone, and then she begins to assign the rooms. So she assigns Pinky the tiny house because she says she gets boss energy, grown woman energy, solitude from Pinky. And so she decided to give that to her. Pinky didn't even argue. Pinky said, I like this. I like being able to have my space and, leave and return when I want to. And when I see fit, just make sure you have my vegan eggs. Love that. Great response. And I'm the same way. I would be so grateful if you gave me an area away from everybody. I don't necessarily have to be in the main house. I could show up because I got main character energy. I think that's how Pinky was thinking. So when it came to the other house, she assigned the rooms. Well, she assigned that house to Pinky and Shamia. And immediately, Kelly. Oh, my bad. Immediately in the scene, Shamia is so ungrateful. She says, I think we got the worst end of the stick. Now, I'll give her grace only with this point. I think she was probably speaking from a place of feeling excluded when it relates to the cast and producers, right? Producers. Maybe because Shamia's been around for a while, she understands that when certain things happen, that's indicative of bigger things. So there's a little bit of unspoken fourth wall breaking in there. But unfortunately, because Cynthia is the person that's assigning the rooms, she is the one that looks like she's doing something shady, which she wasn't. She had a good point because she says, I'm giving this place to, 2 people who seem to be inseparable. And honestly, those 2 are very loud. So I probably would have done the same thing. Put those 2 together. Now, what I would have tried to do, if it's within my control, is make sure the rooms were clean. Because Cynthia said she didn't catch a lot of stuff through the walkthrough. But honestly, with the property that grand, right? And they're probably tired traveling. I'll give Grace, she's probably overlooked a few spots here and there. I get it. I've done that because I've hosted people. Like, I've hosted my family for Christmas at one Airbnb and I didn't catch everything. And that was like a 5,000 square foot house. So an estate like that, like Cynthia, she's not going to catch everything. But how you all handled it, very elementary, very grown girl, as I say before. And I'll say this lastly. I think it's very telling, and you are never to forget where you come from and never forget the struggle and always be grateful, okay? Kelly, I know you mentioned that you're dealing with a lot, and I get that. Given what you're dealing with, you just want some reprieve, right? I get it. But let's not act brand new. She made a comment about the last type of room I stayed in like this was in high school. I've leveled up since then, and I know I might be struggling right now, but the taste is not struggling, or something to that effect. Girl, when I become that successful and I hit millionaire status, because it ain't an if, it's a when, I'm going to be successful. I hope God keeps it in my heart to never forget where I came from. I want to be able to do what I got to do, whether I'm sleeping on 5,000 count thread count, okay, or a blow up bed. I'm just going to make do where I need to go. I don't never want to get to a point where I forget where I come from. Like, I was like, that is childish. So I was very turned off more by Kelly in that scene, and Shamia. I don't really see it for them. So anyway, so now with the room being dirty, I'll let them have that complaint, because I wouldn't want to stay anywhere that was dirty as well. But we're not going to make a big deal about it. How about just bring me some new sheets, bring me a new comforter, somebody get over here and scrub this damn toilet, these tubs, and dust off this fan, and do it pronto. That's it. We don't need to turn it into a whole big deal. Anyway, so Angela goes over. Once everyone is settled, the women have selected their rooms in the main house. Angela goes over to the pool house with Shamia and Kelly. And in my opinion, because she's the producer, she's rubbing salt in the wound. So she says that, you know, she knew that when Cynthia was describing the two people she gave the room to, that she was talking about them too, because they're very close. And then, of course, they're on the defense and feeling salty. They're like, well, what about you and Drew? You don't think she was talking about you and Drew? And Angela's like, no, I ain't that close to nobody like that. And then Kelly made the comment about, what about freaking Frack with their wacky selves, their whack asses? Why didn't she put them there? And I was like, okay, I know you're intentionally saying this. And she said this in the confessional, Kelly. You're saying this in front of Angela, knowing Angela's going to go back and say something. And, you know, later on, that's what Angela does. But Kelly says in the confessional that it's really Portia that's the wacky one. And Phaedra is just tagging along. So that makes her wacky as well. Oh, Kelly. Confessional gangsta, I'll give you that. Your confessionals are sometimes funny. All right, so Kelly made reference that her bed that she was assigned is as big as her dog's bed. That was funny. Shamia calls her husband to complain, shows him the room. And then when the camera zoomed in, I did say this. I did see the uncleanliness. I did. And then the chef, though, I noted this too. The chef comes, and then Kelly's like, oh, you guys could cook here, but you can't cook in the main house. Okay, so with that place being dirty, wouldn't you be concerned about eating the food if the chef is cooking in there? I don't know. I just thought that. Did anybody else think that? Because I was like, that is right. They're cooking there, and apparently this is the dirtiest place. So, All right, so we get to the scene, the start of it. So Portia, she's the first to sit down and arrive at the table. Pinky follows shortly after. She downloads Portia on Shamia and Kelly's situation about them not being happy. She also tells Portia about K. Michelle saying she's not going to come because she doesn't have glam. K, I thought that was very ridiculous, because we don't skip out on scenes for silly things like that. I get it. You're accustomed to, you know, having glam and wanting to look a certain way as you did when you were leaving the hospital. But let's not act like we can't show up for the scene, because at the end of it, you were still in the scene. Yeah, you weren't sitting at the table, but then you ended up sitting at the table after all the commotion. Yeah, you were worried about glam because you didn't feel prepared for a scene, but you were still in a scene with Kelly and Shamia when you went to go visit them at the pool house and bring over the Jack Daniels and then talk. So I don't understand why you were basically protesting, but there was really no true follow through, because you still ended up being in the scene. So anyway. So, Portia coming in as the voice of reason. As much as I, don't like some of the things that Portia does or has done, Where it counts, though, when it comes to this housewife thing and how you show up and being a player, I will give it to Portia. Portia will show up and do what she has to do. Because Portia has been put in situations very uncomfortable and still showed up. Y'all remember season 10 when they pretty much was ostracizing her after that whole situation with Phaedra and Candy the season before? Portia showed up. Now, did she skip out on season 13? Was it season 13? After that stuff with Simon? Yeah, she did, you know. But where it counts, Portia shows up. So I was agreeing with Portia when she said all they had to do was call Cynthia and tell her to clean it. You know, let's give her some grace. Right. All right, so Kelly breaks down. They're going back and forth in the scene. She's sitting with K. Michelle and Shamia, speaking about how everything that she's dealing with at this time of filming in her life is hard. Her ex is like putting her through the ringer with the kids. The kids can't film with her, and he's only doing this as a tactic to annoy her because he doesn't really even care to spend time with them or protect them. And I know that's got to be hard, you know, when you got the weight of the world and that much conflict going on. Sometimes you're not in your best form. So I'll scratch off a little bit due to that, but I'm still gonna have my eye on you, because with you going through everything you're dealing with, wouldn't you think somebody like you would be a little bit more humble? So there's that as well. Anyway, so now, this is the orange part where the shit kicks off. So Pinky, she's telling everybody about, you know, where the girls stand, K. Michelle, Shamia, and Kelly. And she says because she feels like she's bonded with them the most, she feels like she is a spokesperson for her friends. Now, Pinky, I know at that point you haven't realized it, but Kelly is the person that started that rumor that you eat meat. Okay? Yeah, you are windmilling essentially for Kelly and Shamia. And Kay, you have main character energy. You have a reality TV presence. I find it odd that you are linking up with two of the newbies. Wouldn't you want to bond more with the veterans? Is that, because I was thinking that, I said, is that some sort of like power position move? Meaning because you have the tenure, not on this show, but in reality TV in general and in your industry, you're well established. Do you want to have some sort of advantage? Sorry, y'all. Advantage over Kelly and Shamia? Maybe they're a little bit more easy to be controlled or follow you. I don't know. So anywho, the whole bonding thing and what Pinky said, I was thinking that, why is Kay gravitating towards Kelly and Shamia? Those two are, no. I wouldn't want to hang out with them. So anyway, okay, back to Pinky at the table. So I put here Alpha and bonded with them. So she starts asking Cynthia about her intentions behind the room assignment, right? And Cynthia, you know, says that her intention was to be shady. I believe that, but I could also see why, for a quick moment, Kelly and Shamia could think that, because also maybe they have an insecurity about their presence in the group. I think they both know that they're not fan favorites. Let's be honest. And with them being new, there's probably the insecurity behind that, but you can't put that on Cynthia. But Pinky, not knowing the women, she's just trying to figure out what the hell is going on in general. So that's why she's asking the questions. And she said that at the table because Pinky's asking Cynthia in the confessional. Cynthia says it's not really Pinky's place. I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what she says. And she's saying, well, I talked to Shamia and Kelly, you know, and they didn't have this energy that you have. And then they flash back to 20 minutes prior that Shamia did call Cynthia, and you do see Kelly in the background. So they did tell Cynthia how they felt. So, you know, on one hand, I understand, Pinky, why you're being direct and getting right into it, because you're getting in the mix. You ain't running from it. I appreciate that, because that's how the story got to going. But at the same time, these are grown women, and you don't need to speak for them. Okay, they can speak for themselves. But like I said, build up. Pinky did tell us that she has masculine energy, and characteristics of someone that has masculine energy. One of them is directness, okay? And, you know, just getting straight to the point and being solution oriented when it comes to problems. So we saw that. So then Angela reports back at the table before she gets into the situation how Shamia and Kelly's sentiment on Phaedra and Portia being freaking frack and being whack. And then Portia's me, she's like, so we're whack because she don't like her room? Yeah, that's petty, right? I agree with you, Portia. But Phaedra, she says, look, when it comes to duo comparisons, I'm paraphrasing. When it comes to duo comparisons, I would rather be freaking frack because frickin' frack or Dom Perignon, and you guys are over there being Andre, which is the cheapest. It's not champagne, it's sparkling wine, because in order for it to be true champagne, it has to come from a region of Champagne in France. But anywho, when she said that, they had a scene of Shamia and Kelly being obnoxious and running, being loud, and I was like, God, I hate that comparison, but she's spot on. They are Andre, Shamia, and Kelly. I guess you could in this case say that Portia and Phaedra are Dom Perignon. Yeah, I don't see Kelly and Shamia making it to season 18. I'm just gonna say it here right now. If they do, I will eat my words. Mark my words. May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Side note. May 4th, 2026. Mark my words. I told you I don't see them returning, but stranger things have happened. I just don't like their storylines and how they're leading up and how they're showing up. I really do think how they're showing up, because you give production what you give production, but the way production is making their edits, I mean, the writing's on the wall. Do we agree? All right, so anywho. So, Angela, when Pinky is asking Cynthia, mind you, in my opinion, Pinky was not... Okay, Angela said her tone was aggressive. One could say that. I just think Pinky was being very direct. I don't think she was being aggressive. So, with that being said, I will say when it came down to Pinky and Angela, this conflict, Pinky ushered it in. You know, she spread the gasoline around, but Angela essentially started the conflict between the two of them because, Pinky made herself a target, and I guess she was rubbing Angela the wrong way. Because Angela is like, you seem really bothered. Why do you seem so bothered about it? You're coming off real aggressive. And just like Pinky, it ain't your place to say anything. Angela, it wasn't your place to go after Pinky. But hey, this is Housewives, right? So gloves are off. So Pinky immediately goes from, I'm just trying to be, inquisitive, to now she's on the defense with Angela. And let me see, does insult start there? Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, so. Oh, no. Okay, before they get into that. So. Oh, yeah, no, that was happening. Okay, hold on. Let me back up. She started it. Pinky goes on the defense. Okay. Then they pivot momentarily into Portia and Kelly and their situation. And so they ask her if she's going to talk to Kelly. I will agree with Portia. She did try to settle it with Kelly, and there was even a scene where they hugged it out. We thought they resolved it, but Kelly seems to be continuing to perpetuate the issue, but at the same time, not directly confronting Portia about it. God damn it, Kelly, you making me defend Portia. I mean, it is what it is. Kelly, you're wrong in this situation with you and Portia, because yes, you don't have to like how Portia moves. You don't have to, but why do you keep poking at her passive aggressively? And then when you're in a situation where you guys could settle it and bump heads and settle it like Pinky and Angela did in this, okay? Like Phaedra and Angela did earlier. Kelly and Shamia are so immature. That's what it is for me. They're so immature. So Portia's like, look, I tried to settle it And, you know, she feels how she feels, but I think there's other things going on in this group. Is everybody pure? And then Portia pivots, which I liked, because here's my thing. This is what I will respect about Portia in this scene. Hey, let's not bring up my drama with another woman and she's not sitting at this table. How about we resolve what's going on with two women that's sitting at this table? And so she says, Phaedra and Pinky, have you guys resolved your issue? You know, Pinky, like she said before, I just, you know, I was concerned because I'm a business person and you're sitting over here saying this, and, you know, you could be ruining my business. I'm a vegan person and you're saying I eat meat. It keeps flashing back to that scene with Shamia and Phaedra. Phaedra did not per se say that Pinky ate meat. She said Pinky sold meat. And she even said it prior to her getting into this vegan business. So even if it was an attempt to attack her business, Phaedra gave the disclaimer prior to her getting into, so she could have made a lifestyle switch after pivoting from selling meat to now being in the vegan business. So again, back to Shamia and Kelly being an issue. Shamia misconstrued it. She even copped to it in the confessional and said she has to apologize again. Boo. But Kelly is the one that actually said it. And I really can't wait until the lid pops on that top, because I want to see how Pinky gives it to Angela and Shamia, because Shamia is pushing this out and she's not keeping it real as to who really said it. Maybe because she's biased and she doesn't like Phaedra, she wants to put what Kelly did, the sins of Kelly, onto Phaedra. But Shamia, the truth is the truth, and the camera caught it, so you heard it. So maybe you forgot, or maybe you're intentionally doing what you're doing, but the fault still lies with you. So I can't wait till they settle this, because this is starting to border on, you know, eviction gate with Angel from Potomac. And while I like the energy that they're giving, because all of them are involved and they're active, they're not passive like Angel was, the subject at hand is starting to get on my nerves. So let's pronto, can we settle this soon? Hopefully soon. Anyway, so Pinky and Phaedra, you know, they get to that, and then let me see. Phaedra says the fact, and I agree, I'm not even cool with Shamia like that, so I wouldn't even be that casual to have a conversation with her like that. Yes, I see the reasoning in that. And then Cynthia goes to talk to check in on Kelly and Shamia. Shamia fake yells, "Hey, goddess," as Cynthia walks up. Then Pinky says, they go back to the scene at the table. They're going back and forth now, them being production and the cameras. Pinky says, it's given house divided. And then the floodgates open. So Angela's looking at Pinky when she says that. And I can't remember, somebody asked, I think it was Portia that asked, "What's going on, Angela?" And then they start going back and forth. Angela's saying how, you know, you're coming off as bothered. Then Pinky's going on the defense saying, bothered by who? I'm not bothered by you. You don't pose as a threat to me. Now Angela's returning serve. You just seem to be really bothered. Why does it aggravate you so much? I get it. Angela's basically saying, in more words or less, this is not your fight, so why does it bother you? So you got the boom. Pinky comes out and says, "Bitch, I'm not bothered by you." Boom, that changes the whole tone. Then they start exchanging insults on financial woes. Hold on. After Pinky said, "Bitch," I had to write it separate. She says, "This is a term of endearment." No, not when it's said with aggression. Absolutely not, especially towards a woman you don't know. You cannot say that's a term of endearment. Angela says, yeah, what did she say? Bitch is, she gave an acronym for it. She said it's best in taking control of herself. Okay, it's cute. I liked it. Then they start going into the bitch part, and Pinky's like, "I'm a bad bitch." And Angela's like, "You're a bad bitch that doesn't pay her bills." Pinky then says, "You will never touch the amount of money I've touched in my life." Angela says, I could throw a rock and hit 10 people that you owe. You owe everybody across the street. And then Pinky's like, my husband has a lot of money. I'm a multi-million-dollar businesswoman. Angela says, multi-million-dollar bills. That's what you have. And then Angela's like, going into how you having a give back event when you owe employees. And I respect Pinky's business acumen and her hustle, but I'm not gonna act like I have not heard that as well. That Pinky was not paying her employees, because that has been the talk in the past, that she wasn't paying her Black employees that actually worked in the restaurants. And then she says, what did she say? Christmas, I wouldn't cancel Christmas on my employees. And the Pinky's like, what? I think there was, Pinky even was a little like taken aback by that, because that's when you start seeing the malfunctioning, because Pinky was on a roll and then Angela threw her for a loop with that. And then it gets lower and they start attacking each other on the looks. Pinky says that she can get Angela a new lace front or whatever. And then Angela's like, Mr. Clean, Papa Smurf, don't do it. Don't come for me. And somehow it gets into them dating each other or whatever, or liking each other. And then Angela says, you're not attractive to me. I didn't like that, because Pinky, just because she's not weaved up doesn't mean she's not attractive. She is a cute lady, but this is what happens. So they're talking about the husbands, and then Pinky's like, your husband doesn't even like you. What if you took all the wigs, the veneers, the eyelashes, all that off, what would you look like? And Angela's like, I would still have my husband. And she's like, your husband doesn't even like you. And then Angela hit us with the 1-2. Well, I wouldn't worry about that, or something like that. I'm not the one with the wife in the basement. And everybody was like, what? I was like, really? Because interesting, Pinky didn't deny it. Y'all catch that? And honestly, I'm not going to speak cynical, because like I said, I want to speak life and love into their relationship. But I do live in Atlanta, and there is a sexual subculture here and culture of open marriages. There is. And so with them also being so new in the relationship, and then having the money, the notoriety that they have here now, especially being on television. When Angela said that, not that we have proof, but where we live, and I'm going to tell you straight up, like, that's not far off. I mean, Candy and Todd, prime example, they were open about it. That happens down here. I remember I told y'all in one of my situations when I went out to City Winery how the husband was friendly, and the wife, at first she wasn't as friendly, but then the husband was playing footsie with me under the table. I think he was trying to recruit me for, whatever they got going on. And my friend, when she came to visit, her situation about her, I'm gonna recap this with y'all. A lady sent her a drink at a bar, okay? She goes over and talks to my friend. Tells my friend that the DJ wants her and wants my friend and her to leave that night and have a threesome together. Get this though, the lady that was trying to get my friend is friends with the DJ's wife, and the DJ's wife doesn't know that they're messing around. So do with that as you may. I mean, Hollywood is down here. We know the stories about Hollywood in the past. We know about Hollywood in the present. We know about Hollywood. We know how Hollyweird can get. But that's down here. So we will just see if there's truth to that when Angela said that about Pinky. But that threw me for a loop. I said, oh no, Pinky. Please say y'all got true Black love and y'all love each other enough to where y'all just need each other and not a third person to keep your relationship interesting. On a continuum, especially being married. What you do before you get married, that's one thing. But once you enter that covenant, it's just between you and that person. It should be, to keep the peace. That's why you got to marry a forever person. Somebody that you won't get bored with. So then, when she said that, it was so funny in the confessional. Portia had on a cuff and the shit fell off. I think that was the highlight, the shock in all of us. And then Phaedra at her confessional said, "Oh, I love this. They are the same person," like on the level of shade going back and forth. Because we haven't had that level of shade on Atlanta since the Puerto Rico with Nene and Claudia. And then a little bit of it with Portia and Nene in season 10, but it was mainly Nene giving it to Portia because Portia ended up crying and leaving that scene. But yes, we haven't had back and forth like that on Real Housewives of Atlanta since season 7. So 10 seasons later, like to get it, it was classic Housewives. So she also said, both the same person, both in debt. And I said, oh, Phaedra, you always got to put your little zinger on that fucking Scorpio. So then Pinky gets up because at this point she's had enough. She gets up and attempts to walk away, but she tells Angela to kiss her ass when she gets up. And Phaedra, again, making comments on people's body. Your body look good, Phaedra, but let's not forget. She says, when someone tells me to kiss their ass, I want it to be a rump roast, not a flat steak. Because she's making comments about Pinky's butt not being in the best shape. And I'm just like, girl, she just had a baby not too long ago, and she's a natural woman. But that's neither here nor there. So she sits back down, and then she tells Angela, this is why I don't like females like you. You know, this is why I don't hang with females. Yeah, sounds good. Pinky sounds good, but this is the name of the game. This is what they do. I mean, I hear you. You were shocked. You didn't think she would throw that in your face. But again, you're kind of leading with that. And you have to understand that when you're in conflict, some people, there's no rules in fighting. You don't know what they're going to hit you with. So don't be surprised. Just, keep your eye on Angela. She's somebody you don't want to go toe to toe with. That's all that is. And, let's see. So that's that. What did I say? Oh, I forgot to mention this. So when Pinky said the comment about Angela's husband not liking her, and then Angela said the comment about a woman being in the basement, Kelly said Angela may want to mind her business because she may have somebody in the basement and just not know about it because of apparently Charles having indiscretions in the past, and there's been talk recently about Charles stepping out on Angela. So, hey, they're getting into it, y'all. It's like, woo, it's getting ugly at this point. So, now, after all of that, and again, take note, Shamia and Kelly. Y'all heard all of that, right? That's some nuclear, we didn't hit the pits of hell type of exchange. After all of that, they're somehow able to calmly circle back. Because Angela, kudos to you, and Pinky, in that regard, says in the same scene, moments later, but for real though, if I had to circle back, it's your tone. Your tone was wrong. I didn't appreciate it. And they calmly address it and they settle it. And they said they don't want to fight with each other. And I was like, I just watched a master class on Housewife 101. I wasn't ready, but if we gonna do it, that's how we gonna do it. I appreciated that. Potomac could never. Potomac could never. So, oh, Drew says Kay is cranky. We'll get more into that later. I'm picking up on the same energy, Drew. Kay got something going on with her. We're going to figure out what that is. And then at the end of the Portia, she says, oh my God, y'all took it to the pits of hell. Gives Cynthia a look. Like, kind of like that veteran housewife, like, oh my God type of look. Like, what the hell just happened? And that ends the scene. And that's the end of the episode. So yeah, y'all, this was this was a lot. Now, remember I told y'all my notes. First page was the first few scenes leading up. This last page was that whole scene entirely. So that's how much material was in that. So if you haven't seen it yet, yeah, there's me reinterpreting my version of it, but you have to see it to believe it and to enjoy it. So if you haven't seen it, don't let you watching this recap discourage you from watching it. You have to watch it. I promise you, you're going to be like, oh my God. All right, y'all. With that being said, I'm going to end it here. I appreciate you showing me love. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and hype me up if you can. All right? All right. Peace and blessings, y'all. Happy Monday. Bye.